Nation's official podcast. We are your hosts. I am TJ Kern. That is Blake Hartsfield. Blake, a lot of stuff going on in Red Raider land right now. This basketball team continues to win, continues to put up resume building wins. And man, we're going to get into that comeback against BYU here in a minute. We're going to talk some Pop Isaacs. But first, I'm going to let you defend your boy. And of course, if people watch our pod or listen to our pod, we know you are the president of the Behren Morton fan club.
I am the president of the Behren Morton fan club, TJ, since the day that I saw him first play against Oklahoma State as a true freshman, how well he played on the road in Stillwater. I've been a Behren Morton believer, to put it mildly. So,
well, you know who's not a believer? West Coast CFB on Twitter has 19,000 followers. He ranked the Big 12 quarterbacks for 2024. And if you know the answer, but without knowing this list, where would you think Behren Morton should be?
Top five.
Five to seven.
No worse than seven. Personally, I'd put him in the top five. I think he's better than the returning starters at Iowa State and West Virginia and Garrett Green and Rocco Becht. But no worse than seven. Definitely top five for me.
Okay, so I'm just going to read this list real quick. Okay. Number one, Shedeur Sanders, Colorado.
Sure.
Okay. Number two is going to be Noah Filfita, the Arizona quarterback.
Okay. They had a good year last year. They went 9-3, averaged 34 points a game. I did my homework on this one, but TJ, I did my homework on this one when I saw this list. This guy's a moron, putting it nicely.
Yeah, well, not to mention he's got Donovan Smith ranked 10th, and Behren Morton beat him and ran him out of town.
The coaches had a whole offseason and 3/4 of a season to evaluate Donovan Smith and Behren Morton. They picked Behren Morton, the true freshman, over Donovan Smith. So to have Donovan Smith ahead of him, mind-blowing. They've got Josh Hoover ahead of him, TCU's stud, but Behren Morton beat him head-to-head last year when they both started that game in Lubbock. KJ Jefferson from Arkansas going to UCF. They have him at number 5. TJ, he literally got his offensive coordinator fired mid-year because their offense was so anemic in Fayetteville. The list is a joke. That to have where did they tell the people where they ended up had Behren Morton ranked?
So there's 16 quarterbacks here. They have Behren Morton ranked next to last at 15. So my response is, tell me you haven't watched Texas Tech football without telling me you haven't watched Texas Tech football.
TJ, I know you know this. A lot of our listeners probably know this, but I don't know if they've actually gone in and looked at the numbers. This guy clearly didn't do any homework, okay? So Behren Morton last year started and completed 7 games. I'm throwing out the BYU game that we were down by 3 at halftime when he got knocked out, and then he didn't play in the BYU game on the road, right? So K-State, he gets knocked out at home. On the road at BYU, he doesn't play. So the 7 games that he started and finished, that's 6 conference games and the bowl game, and then the loss at Texas is the only loss. He went 6-1. The only loss being in Austin. Okay, that's wins against Houston, TCU, UCF, at Kansas, at Baylor, and the neutral site bowl game against Cal. All right, so 6-1. So if we throw the Texas game out, right? I looked at the numbers from the 6 wins when he went 6-0. And the Texas game, it's the worst game Tech has played all year. They're not in the Big 12 moving forward, so I think it's kind of irrelevant anyway. But against Big 12 level competition, he had a 70 QBR. The offense averaged 33 points a game. He had 12 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. TJ, 33 points a game would be good enough for 4th of the Big 12 moving forward, including the Pac-12 additions. And he was playing at maybe 80%. He was playing hurt, getting no practice reps during the week, getting no work just because they were trying to get him, healed enough to be able to go out there and play on Saturday. TJ goes 6-0 against teams not named Texas. And this guy puts him at second to last in the conference. It's moronic. Sorry, I'm gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, we just wanted to start off with that because I know you're the president of the Behren Morton fan club.
I am the president. I am the president, and it's just a joke.
I am somebody that watches the games, And I'm more of an eyeball test guy. You go into the numbers and the analytics and all that, and that's what makes us, such a good pair. But it reminds me, Behren Morton reminds me a lot of, and I'm going to say a name that Tech fans don't like, and you could shoot me down for saying this at all. The first time I watched Baker Mayfield play football, I knew Baker Mayfield could play football. And it was the same thing when I saw Behren Morton out on the football field. Like you said, Oklahoma State, maybe drop him a couple spots because he hasn't really proven that he can stay healthy. But next to last,
Yeah,
I mean,
for a guy that, again, TJ, in the 7 games he started, he went 6-1. They averaged 33 points a game, and if you throw out the game against Texas, which I think is more than fair to throw out, the whole team didn't show up, and Texas isn't in the league anymore moving forward. 6-0, including the bowl game. 33 points a game, but yeah, he's the second. And again, having beat a couple of the guys ranked ahead of him, it's a joke.
and this list is for next year, not this year.
I know.
So
It's a joke.
think of all the offensive upgrades that we're going to have at receiver, at tight end, Taj Brooks coming back. I mean, terrible
list.
Anyway, we are the nation's official podcast. I am TJ. That is Blake. It is hoop season. And Blake, we have to get into it. What a game on Saturday at the USA. The BYU, the Fighting Mormons come to town, and they came ready to play.
Yeah, they did. Tech has, first off, TJ, great win. To come back in the manner that they did and get an 85-78 win. The second half was electric. Pop Isaacs kind of led that charge, and we're going to talk more about him. But overall, great win, home win. It starts them at 1-1 in this tough 4-game stretch that we've talked about, which is great. It's good to get the one at home. TJ, the only complaint that I've got is they got to stop falling behind at home by double digits. They've been able to come back twice against Oklahoma State and now BYU, but imagine how much they'd be boat racing teams at home if they started the game the way that they're able to bounce back after falling behind.
Yeah, I mean, that has been an issue, starting the game on the right foot. They struggled at home against Oklahoma State. They struggled
Fell behind
on the
early
road.
in Austin. Fell behind early in Austin, came back.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's been several instances this year, but the grit and the toughness of this team. Look, I'm going to be honest. We weren't doing a post game. I knew we were doing a podcast. You had obligations. Things happen. But when they fell behind by 16 at halftime, I kind of was like, all right, I'm prepared to talk about this. They didn't show up, and we're going to get boat raced by BYU. And then I'm on Twitter, and it's like, let's finish this. So I'm like, hold the phone, to borrow a phrase from the old Keith Jackson days, the Hall of Fame announcer. Hold the phone, my friends. And I got back onto the game with about 11 minutes left. And what a start to the second half they had. And about 4 minutes left in the game. You're within striking distance there, and they put them away. Got the win. The crowd was great. Coach McCaslin was huge on the crowd. Pop in the post game said that the environment in Lubbock, the crowd, was a big reason why he chose to come to play at Tech, was for situations like this. I mean, and another quality resume victory.
Yeah, solid quad 1 win. TJ, the computers love and the analytics love BYU, even with the loss to us. And I believe their loss to Houston last night. They're still in the top 10 of both the net, the RPI, the Sargan, all of them. So the computers and the analytics services love BYU. They're going to love that win for the Red Raiders. Very solidly in quad 1. Like you, TJ, Saturday was my wife's birthday, so I didn't get to watch much of the game. I got to watch about the first 5 or 6 minutes of the first half, and they were already down double digits when I left to go to dinner. I kind of thought, well, they're probably going to get blown out, and this is a tough 4-game stretch. And then I didn't look at my phone for the next 2.5 or 3 hours, and had no idea what was going on in Lubbock until I got a text from you when I was leaving dinner. I looked down and that they had won. And I literally texted you back. I said, what? Like, 'cause I didn't believe you. Needless to say, the next morning I got up and went back and watched the replay of the second half. And just the role that they were, momentum changed quickly. The role they were able to get on was impressive. Pop Isaacs was knocking down shots. Defense was getting stops. And the crowd, it was like an avalanche almost, and BYU just couldn't stop it. They came all the way back, and look, a win's a win.
And that is their fourth win in the Big 12, Blake, already.
4-1.
We were, you got to remember, at the beginning of the season, we were like 7, 8, maybe 9.
Could get you in.
4-1 and in first place in the Big 12.
And the schedule looks really good, TJ. I mean, they got a couple more tough ones, but Austin talked a little bit about it when he was on our last podcast. They're favored in their last 6 of the year. They get UCF twice, which is a blessing. They only have to play Kansas once, and that's in Lubbock at home. They got 2 against Baylor, 2 against TCU. That's probably your toughest pair of games against a single team that they've got left, but they've got an opportunity here. I don't know if they're going to be there at the end of the year with Kansas and Houston to win the league, but I think finishing in the top 5 is very much a realistic goal at this point. And doing so would lock up probably a 4 or a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament, which, if you'd have told me that at the beginning of the year, I would not have said that was possible. I would have said there's no way that they're going to finish that high. So testament to Grant McCasland, testament to that team and that culture that he's created in a very short amount of time. And he's got some guys really playing well for him.
Hashtag TTW, baby. Toughest team wins. And I was on Twitter earlier this week, and the only reason I'm bringing this up is because I completely forgot about this era of Texas Tech basketball. I saw a picture of Billy Clyde Gillespie when he was coaching at Tech, and I messaged a couple of my friends, and I was like, dude, I completely forgot about Billy Clyde Gillespie.
1 year, right?
So excited when we hired him, right?
Yeah.
So Red Raider Nation was thrilled. He was Mr. Texas basketball. He's going to do great things for Tech, and it was a disaster. And then you go hire the right guy in Grant McCasland. We said so on this show. And the fanfare was kind of split. There was a lot of up and down when we hired Grant McCasland. But the more you see this team play, the more you see his excitement. You listen to his press conferences.
Watch him on the sideline. It's night and day different from Adams.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he has gotten this team in his first year in the Big 12 to a 4-1 record. And like you said, we were just saying, make the tournament. Make the tournament would be outstanding. Well, I don't want to say that we're going to sit here and say that the Big 12 is ours for the taking. It's still going to be a lot of tough battles every single night. Just ask Kansas, who's struggled a couple times. Houston struggled a couple times. Every game be within 5 points.
This league beats each other up. Look, at the end of the day, TJ, I think they're probably going to end up at the top of that second tier, just below Kansas and Houston, and probably Baylor. Although I think, depending upon how Baylor gets through the meat of their schedule, you could end up ahead of Baylor in third. But of that second group, and if I'm going to put, for argument's sake, I'll put Baylor at 3, because they're favored to finish 3. I don't know that it'll happen, but we'll see. So of that second tier group of Iowa State, TCU, Tech, Oklahoma, and BYU, I see no reason why they can't finish at the top of that group and finish in 4th or 5th in this league, which would be an unbelievable year. And again, you'll be rewarded with probably a 5 seed would be my guess in the NCAA tournament.
And we have to talk about the man, the head of the snake. He struggled a little bit in Houston. The whole team did. However, what a way to rebound for Pop Isaacs, who's leading the Big 12 in scoring, by the way, at 19.8 a game. And I know you wanted to say a few things about how Pop's playing right now.
Look, I owe him a little bit of an apology after the Houston game. I said that was a game that Tech was going to struggle to win, because they're so oriented on a team style and balanced scoring, and you kind of need that dude. I still think Tech is at their best when they're scoring as a team, but at the end of the day, you got to have a guy that can go get you points when you need it. And Tech fans, we're watching Pop Isaacs grow up and do that in front of our eyes. What he did against BYU in that second half, what he's done in conference play as a whole since it's begun, as TJ mentioned, leading the conference in scoring. Um, Really impressive. He's efficient. He's taking better shots. Like we've talked about, you're gonna have to live with one or two a game where he kind of just jacks one up because he's hot and just heat checks it. But TJ, I think the thing that's impressed me the most so far through conference play is he's a lot tougher than I thought he was. When he showed up last year, I thought he was a good
He
player.
competes.
Yeah, he does. He competes and is a lot tougher and grittier than I thought he was. When he came on as a freshman last year, I thought this is a good player. He kind of likes to run around on the perimeter and take jump shots, and he was a good scorer. But that was kind of what it was, right? And watching him this year, being willing to go in and put the ball on the floor and take a hit, and he's taken a lot of hits driving to the basket, and he's willing to go to the free throw line. He's not afraid of that, which is encouraging as a lead, kind of a lead guard or a co-lead guard with Joe Toussaint. And just his willingness to battle and to hit the floor for loose ball. Like, he's way tougher than I ever imagined that he was, and I've just been so impressed.
Yeah, he's had to deal with a lot, and I'm not going to get into all that. But it would be easy for somebody in his shoes. That's all I'll say, to
Shoot jump
have a
shots.
rough year.
Oh yeah, just shoot jump shots and have it get cold and lose your confidence and shoot 27% from three and not be a super effective player. But he's
Yeah,
not
so
done
to
that.
stay focused, his ability to focus, and McCaslin talked about it in the post game. He's not over at timeout saying, "Yo, I'm hot, give me the ball." He's saying, "Yo, we got to get stops. What can we do? What are the rotations looking like?" Like, I mean, he is all about Texas Tech basketball right now. And another guy who I got to give you credit for, because I picked my guys coming into the year. Warren Washington
Yep.
needs to be more involved as a scorer if this team is going to go where we think they can go. He's averaging 13 in Big
Since
12 play. He needs to be in the double digits. Watching him at Houston, that was kind of a tough game for all of us. So we're just gonna, wash that one away. But when Warren Washington is involved in the offense, this team, the ceiling is high as can be.
TJ just opens up another element. To kind of go back to one of the commentators, I think it was Fran Fraschilla, was talking about how they're like a pitcher in baseball, where they've got a fastball and then they've got then they can throw a curve and run on you, and then they've got a change up that whatever. It gives you another element. I'm all for feeding the big fella. I've always been for feeding a big fella when you've got a guy down there that can score and can create some things. TJ's an underrated passer. When a double team does come, and that knocks that opens up a Pop Isaacs 3 or a Chance McMillan 3 or a Kerwin Walton 3, right? We've got snipers surrounding him, which is kind of what you want to do. TJ, I'm of the opinion that 3 to 4 times a half they need to come down with the intent of, hey, we're going to post him up at 30 seconds as soon as we get down the floor, and we're going to throw a lob to him and just let him work. And if that ends up him taking 7 shots because he goes for a post move, so be it. If he passes out, great. 3 to 4 times a half. And then the other thing that they need to be doing, and they've been doing a good job of doing this, I think this is why you've seen the offensive numbers and the scoring numbers tick up, but 2 or 3 lobs a game off a pick and roll when it's there. And he's athletic. He can go up. He's a big, long target. He can go up and get it. It's looked really good, and continue to feed the big fella, because then TJ, it's the oldest thing in basketball, right? Big guys work harder on the defensive end when you give them a little bit of love on the offensive end of the floor. They're more willing to go battle for a rebound. They block more shots. They come over that much harder on the rotation because they're not frustrated with not ever touching the ball on the other end. So feed the big fella, and it's going to pay dividends.
And it's paying dividends, Blake. He's blocking 1.8 a game, which I believe
awesome.
Also is close to leading the Big 12 there. And to be able to play defense the way he has, to be the anchor of this defense the way he has,
Not fouling
without getting into
Yep.
foul trouble. has been huge for this team.
Yes, he's a very intelligent player. Clearly, he does a really good job of not picking up dumb fouls. When he gets a foul, he usually gets his money's worth. But he plays good defense without fouling, TJ, and I think at some point he probably will get in foul trouble. And that's why the Jennings emergence and development is still important. But yeah, Warren Washington has been one of the big reasons that this team has started 4-1, along with Pop Isaacs for sure.
And I got to give my guy a little love because he no showed in Houston, but like I said, just throw that Houston game away. They played suffocating defense. I haven't watched a ton outside of Tech, but Houston is the most impressive team I've seen so far defensively.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah, I mean, and the rankings back it up. First,
TJ, they remind me of us the year we went to the title game defensively. I mean, they're that good. The rotations are that good. The system is that good. I don't love having to play against them, and luckily that's the only time we got to play them this year, unless it's in the Big 12 tournament or in the NCAA tournament. They're that good defensively. They're Virginia good. They're Tech from a few years ago good. Just a grind to play against them.
Yeah, and like I've said multiple times on this podcast already, that game was ugly. But my guy Chance McMillan back in double digits, 12 points in the BYU game, most of them in the second half. Blake, he's our only offensive threat coming off the bench. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, and he can get hot, obviously, with the 7 3-pointers at Butler. If he gets some open looks, I'm all about giving him the green light. Our ball movement's been a lot better this year. So, and Joe, to his credit, like you said, will run the offense, get us some good looks. His scoring's kind of been a little roller coaster ish, but I mean, he's running the offense very effectively.
He's doing exactly what I thought he was going to do. You're going to have some roller coaster. One night he's going to score, and the next night he's going to have 4 points. That's what the Devin Cambridge injury and their ability to overcome this, TJ, and to start 4-1 and to put themselves in this position with the opportunity that they've got in front of them. TJ, they've got 6 guys that can score. Now they have a 7, maybe 8-man rotation, depending on the trust level in Jennings and the development there and what he's able to give you. I'm of the opinion he can give you 10 to 12 minutes in a Big 12 game, just to go out there and defend and hustle and rebound. But you got 6 guys that can score. McMillan's your only threat off the bench. Any offense I think that you get from Jennings or Lamar Washington at this point are just a bonus that you cannot bank on. So if you get 2 or 4 points a game from those guys combined, that's great. The scoring is coming from the starting 5 in McMillan, and they've been able to get it done so far. They're winning in different ways. And again, it all comes back to the culture and the head coach. I think he's done a fantastic job, and excited to see what he's able to do the rest of the way.
Speaking of the rest of the way, here on the Nation's official podcast with TJ and Blake, Saturday in Norman, got those OU Sooners, who I believe they're still ranked 11th.
Yeah, but
they're in the top 15.
They just lost last night at home to Texas. So I suspect we'll get their best effort on Saturday, coming off of a loss at home. They're not going to want to lose 2 in a row at home, but it's an opportunity, TJ. I don't think this is an unwinnable game. I think this is a game that you've got a very good chance to go in and win, get yourself another quad 1 win against a quality opponent on the road. But even if they drop it, TJ, they have an opportunity on Tuesday night to go get another one at TCU. So that's every night in the Big 12.
Yeah, and I don't you just love the Big 12?
They cannibalize themselves, and it's awesome. I mean, it is the middle of this league, TJ, is
and we haven't even talked about Iowa State.
Oh, I know. That's what I'm saying. The middle part, like the Big 12's got great top end teams in Houston and Kansas, and they're both bona fide national champion contenders and preseason favorites, and rightfully so, right? But the middle of the Big 12, everybody from Baylor through I guess Texas, because they're now with their win, they're back to the first 4 out. So if you're in the first 4, next 4 out, I consider you a good basketball team, right? You're in the top 70-ish teams in the country. the middle of this league is just so tough, and so many of these teams would be top 2 or 3 in almost any other major conference, and it just they beat each other up, and it's a battle every night, and there's a reason that these teams advance in March because they're battle tested.
No doubt about that. I mean, just that Iowa State run as an 11 seed a couple of years ago just proves
Epitomized the Big
just that,
12.
right? Like you
Yeah.
can, as long as you can get in the dance out of the Big 12, you got a shot to make a serious run in March.
A 500 team in the Big 12 is very capable of winning 2 games and making a Sweet 16. But bottom up here, they're not going to be afraid if they're 8-8 and they're a 10 seed or an 11 seed and they've got to run into a 2 or a 3 seed in the second round after pulling a first round quote unquote upset. They're not going to be afraid of the 2 or the 3 seed from the AAC or the Big 10, a Wisconsin or a Ohio State or a North Carolina. Like these teams aren't afraid of them, and it shows.
Yeah, no doubt. Grant McCaslin and the boys are getting us excited. I mean, I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. Blake and I post game this week. You there
Yep,
after OU?
I will be there.
Nothing holding me back.
Yep,
So
looking forward to it.
yeah, we'll be back on here with the post game show after the game on Saturday against the Sooners, and looking forward to it and see if how long the Red Raiders can battle and hang on to first place here in this crazy and wild Big 12. Blake, anything else?
I think that's about it, TJ.
All right. Well, I appreciate you hopping on today here on the nation's official podcast. And Blake, before we get out of here, how do we always end these things?
Wreck 'em.
Wreck 'em. We will talk to you guys on the post game on Saturday.